Hello and welcome again to another interview for the series In Conversation with me, Ollie Morris. And now today we've got a fantastic guest for you guys, Chris Falvey, who was the England team manager for the FA and now the senior events manager for UCFB. Hello, Chris. And how are you today?
I'm good, thanks, Ollie.
Good.
Thanks for having me on.
Well, thank you. It's a bit of a common theme at the moment, isn't it, with COVID? But how have you and your family been dealing with lockdown?
Yeah, it was a challenge. First sort of 10, 11 weeks of lockdown were huge challenge with having children at home and my wife and I trying to work full time and kind of blocking out the day as to who could take which calls at which time, and you'd go from playing in the garden and then onto a conference call where you're supposed to know what you're talking about, and then back to playing nursery rhymes and things like that. So yeah, huge challenge.
Oh gosh, so obviously I know you got a young family, so I suppose that's really hard to sort of deal with them and work at the same time. So I credit to you, I think. So let's go back a few years to a younger Chris as such. And how did you actually get into the events industry, and how did you find your first role?
Not by design, that's for sure. Out of uni, so I did a drama and theatre studies degree.
Wow.
So obviously nothing related to what I'm doing now. I guess out of uni, like many people, didn't know what I was going to do. Found myself in a really small furniture company as just an office junior, just doing admin type work, and I was bored doing that. Knew I was capable of more, and just kind of badgered the one of the directors, and she helped. She sort of moved me on a little bit in my career by letting me help her with some projects she was working on. So I kind of became a project assistant by default, really. Moved on in that, managed to get hired by another company as a project manager, not qualified project manager at that time, just they took faith in that I could do what I said I could do, rather than having it written down on a piece of paper or anything. I was a project manager for a couple of years, installing retail systems, as exciting as that was. And then I guess just one day, just kind of got bored. The thing that I was delivering as a project manager wasn't interesting. You'd get to the delivery day and didn't feel there was much to celebrate in delivering a retail system. So decided to change a little bit, look at what skills that I had that I could apply, and I thought events was kind of where I thought I could apply those skills. But by chance, this opportunity at the FA came up as an operations manager. So again, not an events manager. So yeah, absolute chance that there was a 6-month temp contract at the FA for a team operations manager with the international teams, and it was kind of everything, really. I'm sure we'll talk about that a bit more, but it was very involved. Learned so much in that role, and then finally, much later, turned my hand to being an events manager. Yeah, I think the odd thing about that job is obviously I didn't even know it was a job. It was just that a friend of mine heard about this temp role and said, "Look, I think you'd be really good at that. Your project management skills would really apply well to it. You need to manage a lot of different elements. You need to manage a lot of different people." But yeah, I didn't know what a team operations manager was. So I had a lot to learn, and as you say, right in the center of quite a public facing company with high profile players and staff around. You're kind of figuring out this job when the stakes are quite high if you get it wrong. But yeah, really, if I could have known that job existed when I was 16 years old, it might have been something that I'd have aimed towards a bit earlier in my life. But I didn't get into that role until I was 26. So a few years into my career, when I found something that really gave me sort of passion and enthused me. Like no day in that job felt like work at all, which, you know, you hear everyone say that's the secret to work in life, if you don't feel like it's work.
Yeah, I'm kind of jealous of what you actually did, if you look back to it. But did you cope well under pressure with those sort of names you were managing? With obviously, did you manage Southgate at the time, or was it what era were you managing?
You've heard one of my speeches before, haven't you? So, so Gareth Southgate was the men's youth team development manager at the time. So he was under 21 manager for a bit, and then he took on a more broad role developing players sort of through the England pathway. And at that same time, this was a few years into my time at the FA, at that same time I'd progressed to be responsible for all of the men's team operations. So I had four operations managers under me at that point, and my job then was to sort of ensure that there was consistency of delivery of men's matches and tournaments across the age groups. Kind of came in line at the same time with the England DNA that you might have heard of. The tagline for the England DNA was that as players progress through the age groups, nothing should change except their shirt size. So all the hotel set up, all the staff mentality, the tactics, the way that they get called up and find out that they're an England player, all of that stays the same. So it's familiar as they move through the age groups, but they just get bigger.
Did you class as working? Do you think you're classing yourself in the actual events industry itself? Do you think?
At that time, not really. No, there was events elements to it, but the FA had standalone, or still do have standalone events managers that take care of things like event days at Wembley Stadium, or if the under 21s or the women's teams play in venues around the country, those event managers would go and manage the actual event that is the match day. My job was seen more as a logistics and administration type role, to gather all the information and prepare the team and the staff right up till the point that they play the game, and then for those sort of high level matches, an event manager would then deliver the match. But because I worked with a range of age groups, lower down the age, probably under 20s and below, you'd turn from this kind of logistics and administration manager, and then you'd deliver the game as well. So, you'd prepare everything, and then you'd sort of deliver the team to the changing room, and then go run the stadium and cue the match officials, deal with the ball boys, the flag parade, the UEFA protocols and things like that. So yeah, definitely elements of event management in there. But as you know, all of these things, all of these skills, it's all planning. It's all that's what event management is. Event management is bringing lots of information together, timing your tasks to ensure everything gets delivered on time. Event management can be quite administrative, in the boxes and making sure that the contracts are signed and the purchase orders are raised. And so, I feel like it was an events role. It just wasn't called an events role, which actually gave me a bit of a problem when I then wanted to get an event manager job and I didn't have event manager on my CV. And it is a very, very broad and vast role, bringing a lot of different facets from around the FA together. I guess that the core function of it is, and our sort of mantra in that team was to take care of everything off the pitch to allow the players and the coaches to concentrate on the pitch. And that was a lot of things. That was ensuring that all the kind of paperwork, the FIFA, UEFA paperwork was completed and submitted in advance of a match or a tournament to make sure the players were eligible to play, but also everything in between, from booking the hotel, booking the bus, making sure the hotel have got the menus to cater to the players correctly, talking to parents, talking to clubs. Actually, the best part of the job was that you were the person who actually communicated an England call up to the player.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, that's a fantastic thing to be able to do. And if it was someone's first call up, you'd often give them a call and actually deliver that information over the phone, because they'd have a lot of questions, obviously. So I mean, under 15 age group, you're obviously sometimes telling a parent that their child's been called up for England for the very first time. Like, what a privilege that was, and that never got old to be able to do that. So all the way up to actually getting on camp, whether it's training or a match, the players all getting together, and then managing that as an event in itself, making sure that the bus is on time, making sure that the food's out on time, making sure there's a schedule for the day, everyone knows what they're doing, that the players know where they need to be, what equipment they need. So you're really all-encompassing centre of the team that you're working with.
How did you manage those stakeholders in orderly fashion?
Through a very careful planning, and obviously you've got your project plan of how you're going to get from the start right up until the event itself. So you'd have timed communication, some of it based on information you're receiving. So for example, when you're collecting all of the medical information on all of the players in the squad from the clubs, collect that in, and then a good maybe week before the match, you'd fire that off to the team doctor for them to review all the information. So you're a bit of a conduit of information. So yeah, sometimes it's in relation to when the event date is, so 2 or 3 weeks before, or sometimes it's in response to information you're receiving.
Sounds a really interesting role. In hindsight, like, I don't know how you managed it. You must have had a big team in and around you. But yeah, it's crazy to sort of think you were giving someone a call for their call up for an under 18 or under 15. That must have been very special for that.
Yeah, really, really special. Whether later in life, some players who get called up into their 20s and you're actually delivering the news to them. Sometimes the head coach would give them a call, but as the team manager, you were often the person who's giving the actual detail. The coach will go, yeah, you're in the squad, but then you're the person who's like, we'll pick you up at this time, or you need to be at this hotel at this time. The match is here. How many tickets do you want for your family? All that kind of stuff is, I guess, the interesting bit that a player or parents want to know when they're in the squad for the first time. Yeah, really special.
It must be surreal experiencing that, and something that you probably cherish for a long time. Going forward to your job now, you're actually in the actual event industry with UCFB, and what actually attracted you to that role?
So I'd come across this, and I had taken UCFB students on as volunteers, and then all of a sudden, this job that I love with the FA, there was a restructure, and they decided to move my whole team up to St George's Park, which, if you've been up there, it's 3 hours from London, in the middle of a field, essentially a good half hour from any decent sized city. I had a young family, so didn't feel like that was the right time to move up the country. So yeah, I left the FA, and luckily this role with UCFB popped up, and I knew the name. It allowed me to stay in and around Wembley and kind of still working in sport. But also, I think what I liked about the organisation was that I had found this job in sport by chance, and I kind of saw what UCFB were doing to try and open up that pathway earlier on for people in their careers, and open those doors that are quite hard to open in the sport industry. So I had a role to play there of using some experience and bringing my sport industry contacts, I guess, along with me. But what's changed significantly from when I joined is the fact that when I joined, I was very much delivering, whereas 4 years on, I'm now not delivering so much. I'm overseeing. I'm consistency. The same thing happened at the FA. I started off doing the delivering, and then you move on, and as you get into more senior roles, you do less of the thing that it was that got you there in the first place. So I'm not so much hands-on event day delivery now, but more of an oversight that the calendar of events is happening to a good standard, that we're meeting our performance indicators, that we're getting good feedback, we're not spending too much money, that we're making savings where we can, and I guess that the calendar of events fits the output that we need at the end, which is to recruit students and grow the brand.
But do you like that sort of overseeing and developing yourself into that sort of senior manager role?
I think so. Yeah, I think obviously the major draw of this sort of any of it, project management, operation management, event management, was always the buzz of the day, the thing that you're working towards, the project you've delivered, or the match day, or the event day. I still get that now. Like I've been doing these types of jobs for I guess about 15 years now. It's still the thing that keeps me going, is that you're working towards delivering something, seeing what you've worked towards live, that customers get to see it, or spectators get to see it, or I don't know, people get to come to graduation. Like it's working towards something that's appreciated by people, that you get to see. But there's so many jobs where it's just a rolling delivery all the time. Do you know what I mean? You do the same job all day, every day. You never get to an end point. I guess that's what I like about events, is that you get to finish it, assess it, move on, do something, do it again better, or do something different. But that buzz of the event day, that never goes away. It doesn't matter how big the event is. It could be 3 people in room for a presentation, but it's still for me just that there is a buzz to it. And always what I've liked about this kind of work is that you're not tied to your desk all the time. You know, there is a significant amount of desk work, of course, but every 4 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever your event calendar is, you've got a day away from your desk and doing something different.
Yeah, I find that it's very proactive, not in the office but outside, and it's very operational as well, and that's what I sort of enjoy. The events industry itself. But let's sort of merge the two jobs together as such. But is there any particular event that you've enjoyed working on most? Obviously, it might be a huge comparison, but like there could be really like 1 or 2 events that you really enjoyed from UCFB, or one from the FA.
I've been very, very fortunate to be involved in some events that I never thought was even possible. You know, and I think going back to like when you said, how did you sort of get into this role? I don't know is the I guess the answer. And certainly when you find yourself in some of these events, you're like, you know, how did I get here? And some of it. So I'll give you a couple of examples of when you have that pinch yourself moment. So one of the standouts that I'll always remember is I was lucky enough to work at a number of FA Cup finals when I was at the FA, but I can't remember actually what year it was, but one in particular, Chelsea won it, and like Terry Lampard was still there, Michael Ballack was still there. It might give maybe a year, I don't know, but so I was kind of just support in and around the FA Cup final. But one of my jobs was to unpack the FA Cup.
Oh wow!
So it comes in a crate. You unpack the FA Cup, put it together, ready for the ceremony. And then another job was to manage the on pitch after the final whistle. So you've got your winner at that point, to just help manage the winning team they're going crazy and celebrating with the fans, but you're still live on TV. So you've got to get them up the steps to get the cup in a timely fashion. They don't want to go; they just want to celebrate. But you're trying to corral these guys that have just won the FA Cup to get together and go and pick it up. But I got to do that with my brother, so that's why that was really extra special. Is the two of us on the Wembley pitch after the FA Cup final, millions of people watching from around the world, and we just looked at each other and we were like, how did we get here? How is this even possible? Someone's supposed to do this as well. So I won't labour too much longer. But again, just moments where you can't believe you are. 2013, worked on the Champions League final. I was the main point of contact for the finalist teams, Munich and Dortmund. So anything they needed while they were in the UK, they came through me. And again, just being part of an event that is being viewed by the world, I think. I don't know. You have those moments. You're like, I'm right in the middle of it here, and that's really cool. And then I should probably give it a UCFB as well. It would be graduation. Graduation is a special day, and every one of them, not one. Like I've done 4 now, and a really special day. Students who I've seen now journey. To see them 3 years later graduating is really nice, and with families there to appreciate it as well. And often families, it's the first time they've come to Wembley or Etihad, so that's extra special bonus for them. But graduation is a real feel good day to be part of.
You've managed many event teams over the years. What have you noticed that makes someone an excellent event manager?
Obviously, there's the standard answer, which is attention to detail, and being on time, and being a good person, all those things. But there's sort of 2 things I think that stands out for me is finding someone that cares, and that probably sounds like everyone should care about the work they do, but it's not the case. I think people do just turn up and do their job and go home. So finding someone who cares, that means they notice the small details. That's not just attention to detail, that's actually noticing the things that make a difference. And then the other one, probably the most important for me in event management, and is not something you can teach, is the ability to be calm under pressure. And it does come with experience. I'm never expecting someone to have that on day one, but if someone just falls apart when they're in the view of the public or their customers, it's always about displaying to your stakeholders and your customers that everything's fine. And in the background you're figuring it out, and you're making it. You're making it all better. And I've had what I feel are good compliments in that respect over the years. Is people will say to me that in an event, or when I was on a tournament or something like that, people say to me, "You don't look like you're doing anything." And I think that's a massive compliment, because for me that's like, well, that's great, because the event's ticking along absolutely fine, and I look like I'm not doing anything. That means the planning was in place. That means I'm troubleshooting without the customers or the players or the coaches knowing anything about it. So you're keeping the stress away from other people, and figuring it out behind the scenes. So calm under pressure for me.
Obviously, it's a difficult time for graduates and myself entering the sports world as such. But do you have any advice for them at all?
I think just use the time to do something, to learn, to network. There's been an obscene amount of free webinars and conferences and access to learning opportunities that didn't exist earlier this year. Conferences that were very closed, or you had to pay hundreds of pounds to get a ticket. All of a sudden, they were either opened up free or very, very cheap. lots of free webinars that I've seen to learn. And then again, as I said, even if it's not something you're particularly aiming towards, just take the opportunity. If you've got nothing better to do, then sit and listen to an experienced professional telling you about their work, and just approach people. People who've been in a job that they feel fortunate to be in will be happy to share information and time, I think.
You said about networking, and some people might struggle with that, but do you have any tips for that at all?
Yeah, get over it. You have to do it. I think it's not about being an extrovert or anything like that. It's just about being polite and approaching a situation in a respectful manner. We're going to approach someone actively doing their job. You need to respect the mood. They might not have time to talk to you, right? If you're going to approach someone on LinkedIn who is a high-profile professional, then you have to respect that it might take them a little bit time to get back to you, or you might try 10 people and only one person can get back to you. That's not them being rude. They just don't have the time to respond to everyone, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't stop. You should stop trying.
In your current role now, you're most likely to relaunch the events that you were running before, and now we have to obviously deal with social distancing and COVID-19 requirements. How will you and your team deal with those challenges when the events are back up and running?
I mean, obviously, like all industries, will be waiting for and following government guidelines. There's some guidelines for public events at the moment, but that was due to commence in October of 2020. But obviously, we're just going through a period now of sort of a halt on measures being relaxed. So I'm not sure that October will be possible now. I think just like other industries, like pubs and those kind of shops and those kind of industries, you just got to follow the guidelines and see what you can feasibly put into place. But what I do think is that for events and conferences, if it is going to significantly affect the experience of your customers, then I'd start questioning whether it's actually worthwhile to do the event physically, or continue with the virtual versions that we've been getting better at over the last sort of 4 months, because you're in control of that environment. I might find myself delivering an event where I'm not in control of all the elements anymore, and that might affect my customers' experience.
What do you see yourself doing in 5 to 10 years' time from now?
I think, as I've described, the way my career has gone to date, I didn't know what I was going to do, and through a series of choices and opportunities along the way, I ended up in an industry I loved, in a job that I think suits me and my character. If you'd told a 21-year-old me as I was graduating that I'd work for the FA with the England teams, go to World Cups, work at FA Cup finals, I couldn't have possibly seen how that would be, what the route would be to that. And then similarly now, if you'd have told me 5 years ago when I was at the FA and really happy in my job there, that I would leave that job and I'd work in higher education, I'd wonder how that would happen and what the route would be to that. So I guess you just don't know what's going to come along and the opportunities that will come up. But yeah, here I am working for a really exciting brand, creating new ways to do things all the time. So yeah, I guess experience tells me you probably can't plan where you're going to be in 5 to 10 years time. So yeah, just enjoy what I'm doing and see where it takes me.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you for being interviewed today. It was fantastic to have you share your experiences from the events industry and advice that you gave to my series, and I much appreciated your efforts for that, and all the best for you and your team for the future.
Thanks for having me.